Welcome back to Antidote to the Wire Fraud Epidemic, Part 4, How Do You Fight It, particularly on IT Controls. Good morning. My name is Kim Lay, and I'm the founder and CEO of A2Q2. And this is part of our wire fraud segment. In the first segment, we talked about what's happening and who it's happening to. Second segment was about how the scam works. Third segment was why the scam is so successful. And now, fourth segment is we're focusing on how do you fight it with practical internal controls. And this one focuses on IT controls. So let's get started. We talked about how do you fight it, and prevention is the key, and sharing information about this scam with your team, how it gets perpetrated, and that they can be a gateway and also the way to stop the scammers. And of course now, the suggested internal controls that you can implement to not become a victim. So on the IT front, IT controls keep the scammers out of the system. As you will remember from the previous segments, we had a CEO whose email account was hacked into. And so there were some lessons that he wanted to share, and this is some of them. So the first one is upgrade the security of your email account to a two-factor authentication. What does that mean? Two-factor, the first factor is usually a password. Most of us have passwords on our email accounts. But the second factor authentication is having a code text onto your phone, and you have to then enter that code, and if it's the right code, you then get to enter your password. So it requires two steps. And for any hacker to get into your email account now, they will have also needed to steal your phone or have access to your phone and to your computer. So that's the two-factor authentication control. The second one is to run an antivirus on your computer. And I know this for most PC users, this is very standard, but if you use a Mac, sometimes people get complacent and say, there aren't that many viruses, people don't really target Macs. Well, that's not the case. As I've explained in the case where the CEO used extensively, exclusively, only a Mac, when he ran his antivirus program, he found that he had 17 viruses. Now, he was expecting one or two, but 17 would mean that maybe after they got access to his email account, they also then went there and downloaded other malware and used that to exploit and get into his wider company system. So even if you're a Mac, you're not safe unless you use an antivirus program. And then the third one is using complex passwords everywhere and changing them often. And the easiest way to follow this discipline is maybe to use a computer-generated passwords. And I can hear you guys groaning because I groaned when I read this. I have a hard time remembering one or two passwords that keep changing, much less now having computer-generated passwords. But if you take your security seriously, this is something that you also need to consider. And remember, complex passwords means a combination of letters and numbers, maybe special characters, longer length, not just your pet, cat, your dog, your mother-in-law, your kids, your wife, your husband, but use something a little more complex than that. And these are all the things that if you line them up one at a time, it makes it that much harder for hackers to get into your system. And then number 4 is encrypting your hard drive. Apple has offered this option in OS 10 for the past few years. There's a performance difference, but it's very negligible, particularly if you're on a solid-state drive. For the PCs, again, this is something that you can do, and maybe you don't encrypt all of your computer's hard drive, but the specific ones where there are particular transactions that you want to protect or that are particularly important to you. And then finally, 5, be aware of sudden changes in business practices. For example, if someone you currently do business with, you suddenly receive a personal email from them when all the previous correspondences for official business has been a company email, you may want to question that and also verify through other channels that you're still communicating with your legitimate business partner, because maybe someone has hijacked their account and now pretending to be them. And so it may be a case where the email address looks fine, but pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, Sally, I got this email from you. Does it seem to make sense? So these are the controls that we would suggest around IT. I hope these were helpful. My name is Kim Lay, and my contact is here in case you'd like to email me with questions or comments. And I look forward to talking to you in the last segment where we talk about treasury controls and how to prevent this particular fraud. Have a great day.